welcome to H98G
Hack 98. So today is our first video on YouTube, and today's agenda is that we're gonna teach you about stress testing and how it is important, and that's also in our today's agenda. We have what is stress testing, the difference between the stress testing and the sec testing, means the security testing, why it is important, and moving towards ahead to DHCPig Pentest tool. We're gonna see one of the tool of the stress testing, and I'll also give a short summary or a review about the DHCP and its uses, the binary representation in the DHCP, and the uses of the DHCPig Pentest tool. Now moving ahead, let's get started. Now here we are going to see the stress testing series. Now the first we have what is stress testing. Now stress testing is a type of software testing, as you see here, that verifies the stability and the reliability of the software applications, right? Now the goal of the stress testing is to measuring or to uniting the software on its robustness and error handling capabilities under the extremely heavy load conditions or the circumstances, and ensuring that the software doesn't crash under the crunch or in the harsh situations. It even tests beyond the normal operating points and evaluates how software under it works in the extreme conditions. Now the stress testing is basically it's a part of software engineering, and stress testing is also known as the endurance testing. Means in under the stress testing we have the AUT, which is a being stressed for a short period of time to know its withstanding capacity. Most important use of the stress testing is to determine the limit at which the system or software or the hardware breaks. So that was about the stress testing. Now similar to the stress testing we have security testing also. Okay, now security testing, it's a type of software testing, and that uncovers the vulnerability, the fulminations, the threats, the risk and the intentions in the software application, and prevents the malicious attacks from the intruders. Now the purpose of the security test is to identify all the possible loopholes or the weaknesses of the software system, which might result in a loss of the information, in the revenue, in the repute of at the hands of the employees or outsiders of the company or in the organization. So that's all about the stress testing and security testing. Now moving ahead to the next slide, we have why stress testing or security testing is important. Nowadays it's very important to have security testing or stress testing. Now the main goal of the security testing or the stress testing is to identify the threats in a system or in the regulations, the organization, and measures its potentials, vulnerability or the weaknesses, so the fulminations can be encountered and the system does not crash or stop functioning or cannot be exploited. It also helps or assists in identifying or detecting all the possible security risks in the system, and helps developers to fix the dilemma through coding. Now through coding, many of the security analysts or many of the developers, they use Python coding, which is a very easy to use, so that the system will regain its functionality very fast and very quick if we go through by coding with Python. Now as you know about this coding, but there are the types of security testing is also there. I think there are 7 types of security testing is there as per the open source security testing methodology manual. Like they have the first one, we have the vulnerability scanning, then the security scanning, then the penetration testing, then the risk assessment, and next we have the security auditing, then posture assessment, and the ethical hack. Now in the vulnerability scanning, this is done through automated software to scan a system against the known vulnerability signatures, the known vulnerability issues. Moving ahead to the security scanning, it involves the identifying the network and the system weaknesses and the loopholes, and later provides the solutions for reducing this risk. This scanning can be performed both manually and automated scanning also. Now the main point, we have the penetration testing. Now this kind of testing is stimulates an attack from a malicious hacker, and this testing involves analysis of a particular system to check for potential vulnerabilities to an external hacking attempt. And in the risk assessment, it involves the analysis of the security risk observed in the organization or in the company. The risk was classified as like low, medium, and high. This testing recommends controls and measures or units to reduce the risk. And in the security auditing, it's an internal inspection of the applications and operating systems or OS for security flaws. An audit can also be done via the line by line inspection of code also. And then the posture assessment, it combines the security scanning, the ethical hacking, and the risk assessments to show an overall security posture or the security infrastructure of an organization. And in the ethical hacking, you know about that. It's hacking an organization or software systems. Unlike malicious hacker who steals for their own gains, the intent is to expose the security flaws in the system. So this was about why stress testing is important nowadays. So moving to next slide, we have DHCPig. That's an DHCPig Pentest tool. Okay. So before going to DHCPig, I wanna tell you that what is DHCP first. Okay. So DHCP is nothing but it's an dynamic host configuration protocol. It's a protocol that provides a quick, automatic or computerized and central management or supervision for the distribution of IP addresses within a network. It's also used to configure the subnet mask, to default gateway and DNS server information on the device. Okay, and now how this DHCP works. Now as per the example, like see, a DHCP server issues unique IP addresses and automatically it configures other network information. In most homes and in the small businesses, the router acts as a DHCP server, and in the large networks, a single computer might take on that role. Now to make this work, a device, or we can say the client, request an IP address from a router. The router means it's an host. Okay, then the host assigns an available IP address so that the client can communicate on the network. When a device is turned on and connected to a network that has a DHCP server, it sends a request to the server. Now it's called DHCP discover request. Okay, now after the discover packet, it reaches the DHCP server. The server hold on and it holds an IP address that the device can use, and then it offers the client the address with a DHCP offer packet. Now listen this carefully. Once the offer has been made for the chosen IP address, the device responds to the DHCP server with a DHCP request packet. Okay, that's the packet. Okay, to accept it, then the server sends an ACK to confirm that the device has that specific IP address and to define the amount of the time that the device can use the address before getting a new one. If the server decides that the device cannot have an IP address, it will send a NACK. Okay. Now moving ahead to what is ACK, right? Now ACK is nothing but it's an acknowledgement or is a transmission from a receiving station to a transmitting station, communicating that the transmitted data has been received without errors. And it's about the ACK. Okay, it's a very short one. Okay, now we'll see about what is NACK. Now NACK is a way for the receiving end to indicate it hasn't received a specific packet. A NACK message is sent over the RTCP to the sender of the media, which in turn needs to decide if it will retransmit the lost packet based on its availability in its cache and its estimates to the usefulness of the retransmission. So that was about NACK, right? Now before going to, as I mentioned in this DHCP, as I mentioned about the IP addresses, the subnet mask, and the DNS server. So most of you guys didn't know about what is IP address. So how it looks, IP address, how it looks like a dotted notch, like 151.101.65.161 or 121, and also it can look like 2001 to 001 decimal 4860 decimal 4860, then double noted decimal we have double 8844, like that it comes. Now what is the purpose or what is the application of the IP address? Now IP address, it provides an identity to a network device on the internet, like similar to a home or business address that supplies a specific physical location with an identifiable address. Now the devices on a network are differentiated from one another through the IP addresses. Now if you send a package to a friend in another country, you have to know the exact destination. This same general process is used to send data over the internet. However, instead of using a physical mailing address, the computer uses the DNS servers to look up a host name. Now host name, it's an owner name, okay, to find its IP address. That was about the IP address. Okay. Now as I said about the subnet mask, what is an subnet mask? Now subnet mask is nothing but it allows the flow of the network traffic between the hosts to be segregated based on the network configuration by organizing the host into logical groups. Now subnetting can improve network security and the performance also. Now what is network security? Now network security is nothing but it's gotten a lot of attention in the recent years as cyber criminals exploits hit the news on a weekly basis. You know about that. So network security technology is constantly evolving, but its basic tenets remain constant. Now, like we see, one often to overlooked, we have physical network security, the password protection and spyware, the online privacy. That's all about the network security. Okay, now in the subnet, perhaps the most recognizable aspect of the subnetting is the subnet. Okay, like the IP addresses, a subnet mask contains like 4 bytes, which is 32 bits, and it is often written with using the same dotted decimal notation. For example, like a subnet mask in a binary representation. So as I said, the binary representation in the DHCP. So binary, it means it's a kind of hexadecimal, okay. It's represented in a hexadecimal number, which are 2 alternatives to the traditional decimal numbers we use in the daily life. And in the critical elements of computer networks like addresses, the mask, and the key all involve the binary or the hexadecimal numbers. So in the weekly basis, like in the daily basis, we have a number of works in the essential in the building, like the troubleshooting and the programming in any network. So that was about the binary number and the base 2, because binary numbers have the base 2. There are 2 digits only, 0 and 1. Those are dependent on the 0 and 1 only. So this was about the DHCP. Now, as you see here in the last bottom, we have a note, and the note is that the dynamic host configuration is a working group of the Internet Engineering Task Force who created the DHCP. Now, who are Internet Engineering Task Force? Who they are? What their purpose is? Now, Internet Engineering Task Force, those stand for IETF, is a primary internet standards body. Those develop the open standards through open processes. It's a very large international community of network designers, operators, vendors, and researchers concerned with the evolution of the internet architecture and the smooth operation of the internet. The technical work of the IETF is done in the working groups only, now which are organized by the topic into the several areas. Much of the work is handled by the mailing list, and as I know, they hold for the meeting 3 times per year. So those that was about the IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force. Now moving to the next slide. Okay, so here we come to DHCPig tool. Okay, so DHCP, what is DHCPig tool, pentest tool? Now DHCPig pentest tool, it's an DHCP extortion application that will launch an advanced attack in order to consume all the active IPs on the LAN, which is a local area network, and it also prevents the new users from getting the IPs assigned to their computers. It also works pretty well attacking the Linux LANs as well as the Windows 2003, 2008, etc. Now in fact, DHCPig doesn't require any installation, okay, as it is a very tiny script. It only requires the Scapy library installed on your system, and it includes support for the Ipv4 and Ipv6. Okay, so this was about the DHCPig tool. So as I said about Ipv4, now most of the guys, you didn't know about what is Ipv4. So IPv4 is nothing but it's an internet protocol. It's on version 4, okay, of the internet protocol. It is one of the core protocols of the standard based networking methods in the internet, and other packet switch networks. So this is bits like it still routes most of the today's internet traffic. It's a 32-bit address space limits the number of the unique host to like 232, which is nearly like 4.4 billion IPv4 addresses for the world to use it. So it was about the IPv4. Now what is IPv6? Now IPv6 is an 6th version of the internet protocol, and it's an upgrade of IPv4. IPv6 or IP version 6 is a network layer protocol that allows the data communication to pass the packets over a network, and this also involves the sending and the data in the form of packets between the two nodes and a network. Like like I said, the IETF, they give the RFC 2460 and the specification for the IPv6 in the release 1998. So that was the very early time they introduced about IPv6. Okay, so moving ahead to the next slide, we have the uses of the DHCPig tool. Now, what are the applications of DHCPig tool? It's very simple. It's on the screen. It detects or prints the DHCP replies. Okay, and it also detects and prints the Icmp request. Now, what is Icmp? Icmp is nothing but it's an internet control message protocol, which is also a network layer protocol used by the network devices to diagnose the network communication issues. Now in the Icmp, it's mainly used to determine whether or not the data is reaching or being sending to the intended destination or not in a timely manner. So commonly the Icmp protocol is used on the network devices such as the routers, and it's very crucial for error reporting and testing, but it can also be very used in the distributed denial of service. And what is distributed denial of service? It's a DOS attack. It's a very malicious attempt to disrupt the the normal traffic of a targeted server or the targeted website or the service or the network by overwhelming the target or its surrounding infrastructure with a flood of internet traffic. Now in the DOS attack, it achieves the effectiveness by using the multiple compromised computer systems as the source of attack traffic. It exploits the machines, and it can include the computers and other network resources like IoT devices. It's a very high level, and the DOS attack is like unexpected traffic jam or cloning up the highway, preventing regular traffic from arriving at its destination. So that's about DOS attack. So moving ahead, we can discover and create a network map of your neighbors' IPs. We can also request all the possible IPs in a zone, and also we can create a loop or loophole and send to the DHCP request from different MAC addresses. No, MAC address, it's a physical address. Okay, don't be confused. MAC address, it's an product address or it's an address of the physical address of an asset. Now we can also explore the neighbors MAC and IP addresses also. We can also release the IPs and MAC address from the DHCP server. And the second last point, it tells about the ARP for all neighbors on that LAN. Now in this second point we have the ARP point. What is an ARP? ARP is nothing but it's an address resolution protocol, and it's a network protocol. It used to find out the hardware or the MAC address of a device from an IP address, and it is also used when a device wants to communicate with some another device on a local network. Like for the example, has an Ethernet network that requires the physical address to be known before sending the packets. Okay. Now here the scenario is like that the sending devices uses the ARP to translate IP addresses to the MAC addresses. Okay. Now in the next step, the devices sends an ARP request message containing the IP address of the receiving device. Okay. And after that, all devices on a local network segment see the message, but only the device that has that IP address responds with the ARP reply message containing its MAC address. And the sending device now has the enough information of like to send, it have the very enough information to send the packet to the receiving device. Now as per I told you about this ARP request, now how it looks. The ARP request packets are sent to the broadcast address, and it looks like FF decimal, double dot decimal. And for the internet broadcast, like it have 255.255.255 for the IP broadcast. So this was about the ARP. And the very last point, but not the least, we can knock off the network on the Windows devices. Also we can shut down the networks on the Windows devices. So this was all the applications about the DHCPig Pentest tool. Remember, this session is for the education purpose only. Don't misuse this DHCPig tool or any other pentest tool in any manner, because it's a very illegal to use these kinds of tools if you don't have a license, or if you are in the training also being as a security analyst. Don't use or don't misuse this kind of tools. Okay, it's all for the purpose that whenever the company needs, then only you do it, or if you want to practice on your network only. Okay, so that you will be safe and those kind of things also will be safe in their place. So my request is that don't misuse this tool. Okay, so I hope you guys have involved in this cyber content, have a lot of knowledge about this DHCPig after this session. Okay, now I request you to just follow on me on the social media. So follow on Twitter and Instagram, h9hg hack98 @hack98g. Okay, so do guys follow me. Okay, thank you from h9hg. Hope you guys love this video, love this session, and please hit the like button, subscribe to h9hg hack98, and I will see you in the next video. Whenever the video will come, you will get the notification. Okay, take care, goodbye.